think, materialism and so on. You applied a very exact and a very elegant science to it. In the latter part of your film, with the Venus Project, it's a science, but I'm not sure it's that exact a science. I don't think that the answers that we're looking for can necessarily be described on a stage by you right now or by anybody else. They may be things outside of our current way of thinking.
Well, obviously.
Has that occurred to you? I think it's boring. This debate has become a platform for people to sort of voice gripes and personal things. I mean, can we not think a little bit more out of the loop rather than talking about tiresome details here?
I'm not sure what your question is, though. What's your question? What's that? Okay. Well, what I would say in general is that I'm not advocating some set system that is, this is it, black and white. When I started learning about the Venus Project, I had numerous questions, and I was actually very skeptical of the concepts because it was so foreign to me. And everything is foreign to everyone continuously as knowledge progresses. In other words, there's always going to be something new to discover. So it's the soul elements, the core attributes that are so important. And those are the fact that our financial system creates aberrant human behavior. Not only psychologically, but structurally, because structurally it's completely manipulative. So you're only as free as your purchasing power will allow, for one. And then you're always in debt, so you're always a slave to the corporate system, for two, because the only way money can be created is out of debt. So you have to get rid of the financial system as a whole. Even if you did something like got rid of interest, which I agree in transition, it still doesn't remove the problem of people competing and taking from each other constantly. You have to have a system that's designed for humans to live together. And our current system is not designed that way. So until we do that, and that's the broad spectrum, that's the core element, and we should all think independently and in novel ways and contribute together to come up, because if we all thought together, it'd be unbelievable what we could do, because there's so many minds at work.
I think the benefit.
At this moment, you can see a lot of information that he's done in his books. There are certain things that are very, very complex, and I've actually talked to him that he does not release because he thinks they would be used for destructive purposes. In his genius, because he has so many ideas that are so amazing. He's been ripped off his whole life. This guy, you should read about him. He's amazing. When he was 9 years old, one of his family members hurt themselves in a metal fan. So he designed a fan with rubber blades and took it to a fan company. The fan company kicked him out at 9 years old, and then a month later, he goes by the store and he sees his fan in the window. So this guy has been ripped off his entire life. You wouldn't believe the things that he's constructed that have been taken from him repeatedly. He designed a car that was 67 parts. An average Volkswagen is 6,000 parts. He designed this car. It was unbelievable. Anyway, I don't want to go in all this, but it's not open source because he doesn't want people to abuse his ideas, because he knows the system as it is. He knows that there are certain things. He has ideas about reducing pollution, how to get rid of things regarding nuclear pollution. He has some incredible ideas. And in time...
If you come in the public constantly, you can't be taken down. Like you come in the public constantly, you can be taken down, people who don't.
Right.
So that's why it's important, like guys like you.
The thing is, all of his ideas technologically are supplemental to his perspective on the social system. So they're not as relevant. I mean, he has tremendous ideas of efficiency and how to produce so many different things, and there are all sorts of other scientists that do as well, but they're out of line with the structure. Everyone tries to make money. For example, ET3, which is the organization that has the maglev train that goes 4,000 miles an hour, that virtually exists. The reason they're trying to sell it, of course, they don't want to just do it. I mean, obviously, with something that efficient, though, you would never need to sell it. It uses 0.1% of the amount of energy that a plane uses and goes that fast. So, with that type of efficiency, there's no wheels, nothing can wear out, very little maintenance. You could have all the tube stations in London going at lightning speed, and you just build a tube so no one can jump on the tracks. There's all sorts of things you just put your mind to it you can think of. So anyway, it's the social design that's the most important. And that's what I'm advocating more than anything else. And through time, if things progress, his ideas for all of these elements, which are very much out there, broadly speaking, it's just a matter of getting scientific minds to move forward with the specific direction. These things will come forward in more of an an open source man on. But in the end, open source is definitely the way to go.
Just going to take the last two questions, and then we're going to move into an open mic.
One second, I'm sorry. Yes, of course. Buckminster Fuller is very similar. Right. Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Well, Jacques has been traveling and doing that as well. He just has not been given the acclaim and the recognition. You can find YouTube videos of him on television from the 1970s. Sorry, go ahead.
Hello, hi. I've seen both your movies, documentaries rather, I'd call them. I downloaded them for free online. I have two questions. One, my first question is, what would be the result if the world finally stopped using the dollar, the US dollar, as a general means for trade? And secondly, is a personal question. I'd like to know, what's your discipline? What did you study?
Okay, the first question is, what would be the result of the dollar? Well, basically, the dollar as the reserve currency has kept America in its hegemonic position for a long time, ever since the 1970s, when Saudi Arabia decided to use the dollar as its petrodollar. And that's been, I think what would happen if the dollar was removed as the world currency, they would just replace it with something else. It would definitely have a strong effect on America, because America has gotten away with so much because every other country needs the dollar to buy oil. So if you want oil in your small country, you have to either take a loan from the World Bank to get the dollar, or you have to go through, which is usually the case, or you have to go and buy the dollar through conversion, which isn't just as easy as converting. They actually have to buy the dollar. So they actually buy bonds, for example, in order to get the dollar, in order to get oil. So if that stops, then it just means further demise for the United States, which is well needed in many ways. But that's basically the ramifications of that. And as far as my discipline, I am a musician, and I studied percussion for many years. That was my training, and then I moved into music because I couldn't make a living wanted as a percussionist, as a musician, as a composer. So I got into the commercial industry in New York, and I was very unrewarding, so I continued my own work. And then I made these two films as an altruistic expression, all my music and stuff. So it's very artistic for me in multiple ways, not only as a political expression or a humanist expression, but is more so as a general artistic expression, which is why I do so much with effect and things like that. So thanks. Thank you. Is that it? I see one person with his hand up. Yes? Hi. I see you.
I've just got one question. Have you taken into account the effects of automation, increasing technology, and therefore increasing the radio frequency and electromagnetic interference through the entire planet of what you're saying on the Venus Project? We've already seen that, take for example bumblebees, there's 25% the bumblebees that we should have currently at the moment, and that's then going to diversely affect the plant life, and therefore continues up and it affects all life on the planet. Have you taken into account the effects that those are always cause?
Yes, I've always considered all of that. From obviously in a lot of ways the destruction of the bees is in a lot of ways more important than. I know. Right. Well, there's so much environmental destruction. There's so much destruction on so many levels. The pollution in general from noise and frequency pollution. Like, we have so many things moving around our brains that have never been tested to understand what the real ramifications are. And then, of course, there's so many attributes to it. And the fundamental point is that you can attribute the great majority of these issues to the monetary system, because it's coming out of a corporation that wants to cut corners, doesn't do thorough testing, that wants products out for money, or they pollute. Monsanto, companies like this, they use all sorts of crazy stuff, and they destroy the environment. And it's so vast how bad things really are on so many levels. And I really think the monetary system and the profit system is to blame more than anything else. So, that's it.
I think in your film you essentially said that any solution that would be possible to solve things